You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan.
Welcome to Women's Media Center Live. I'm Robin Morgan. This is our season finale. We're going on hiatus until September 10th. But check your podcast subscription or at WMClive.com for updates during that hiatus. Well, we survived the Republican convention, that blight of the white and the right. You know, you could have gone snowblind just looking into the people in attendance in that hall. Coming up, of course, is the Democratic Convention in Philadelphia, with people in attendance who at least actually reflect the look and the languages and the population of this country. What a concept. One of those people, my first guest, Maria Teresa Kumar, will fill us in on the massive voter registration drive, as well as the organizing to get out the vote drive that's taking place in the Latino and Latina community. And that is the vote that may well tip the difference in this election. My other guest can give us much-needed hope about what's possible in policy and government. The Foreign Minister of Sweden, Margot Wallström, has literally established a feminist foreign policy. It can be done. All that's coming up, but first we have to go inside the headlines. It was the Trump family feud reality show, soap opera dramatic. The GOP platform rolls back the future and the present, denouncing abortion even in cases of rape or the woman's health, requiring public schools to teach the Bible, insisting that lawmakers use religion as a guide in legislating, selling coal as a clean energy source, rejecting marriage equality and affirming homophobia, demanding a return of federal lands to the states, appointing family values judges, barring female soldiers from combat, and implying that women shouldn't even be allowed in the armed forces, and, of course, rejecting anything approaching gun control. Translated into German, it would have served nicely as Hitler's first speech to the Reichstag. There were the floor protests throughout, with delegates at one point walking out and with trembling women delegates telling reporters that they had been threatened and roughed up when they went to the restrooms, threatened for having protested Trump. There was the 10th-rate so-called celebrity guy from Duck Dynasty. There was Bob Dole, looking as though he was freshly thawed from having been cryonically frozen. And how about Trump's choice of Indiana Governor Mike Pence as his running mate, one of the few who would accept? Donald, the bold decision-maker who waffled back and forth, now reportedly regrets the decision, which would explain why, when Trump and Pence made their first public appearance together, the music Trump chose for their entrance was the Stones' "You Can't Always Get What You Want." Trump already has a massive problem with women voters, over 70% negative. And Pence, grateful for the pick, since he was about to lose the governorship anyway, is not going to help with women. Pence opposes equal pay. He backed legislation against abortion, gay rights, and immigration while in Congress, where, by the way, he attempted to shut down the government over Planned Parenthood funding. As governor, he lowered corporate taxes and cut funding for pre-K and higher ed, and he signed one of the most draconian abortion laws in the entire country earlier this year. An evangelical who's suspicious of science, he has publicly declared that smoking has no ill health effects, and he proclaimed that fetal cells used in scientific research deserve funeral rights. Regular listeners to this program will recall that we joined with Indiana women who had started a hilarious campaign they hashtagged Periods for Pence, texting him questions about the proper rights to use on cells from the tampons when giving them a decent burial. But then, you see, came Melania Trump's speech, much heralded despite rumors that she didn't want to give a speech in the first place and detests the presidential campaign. Still, she soldiered on, trying but offering none of the standard warm anecdotes about their marriage, possibly because there were none to offer. And then an alert tweep on Twitter noticed the striking similarity. like identical phrases, sentences, and images between two central paragraphs in that speech and one made by Michelle Obama at the 2008 Democratic Convention. Oh my God. Plagiarism. And of Michelle Obama. The press gamely cut Melania some slack, since no one believes she wrote her own speech, despite her having claimed earlier to have done so with, quote, as little help as possible, close quote. But the campaign plummeted into chaos. Campaign chairman Paul Manafort, himself a favorite of right-wing politicians and foreign dictators staging fake re-election campaigns, well, Manafort was ultimately responsible for overseeing the speeches, so of course he flatly denied any similarity whatsoever in that now familiar Austrichian Trump manner that we've come to expect. And instead he blamed, ta-da, the media. And, amazingly, blamed Hillary. Yet it was hard to figure out why the campaign didn't simply target the speechwriter or the speech overseer and fire him or her, insisting that Melania was not at fault and had been badly served. That would have ended the story. But they opted to stonewall. Despite the proof, now viral clips of Michelle and Melania. That seemed a suicidal choice unless the culprit was somehow unfireable. And here's the kicker. Turns out the culprit is a long-time, ready-to-fall-on-her-sword-and-resign Trump staffer, consulted by Melania herself. Trump declined the resignation, and he still hasn't apologized. And oversight was supposed to have been done by another unfireable Trumpian, Jared Kushner, Trump's son-in-law, Ivanka's husband. Leaks have been turning into trickles, with reports flying that there is now an open feud between Trump's wife and his grown children, never all that close to begin with, despite the pretense, and already at loggerheads over the choice of Pence as a Veep candidate. Wow, the personal sure is political. It's a feminist adage that the family is the mirror of the state, and the reverse. Patriarchal family, patriarchal state. Egalitarian family, egalitarian state. And don't you think that this dysfunctional Trump family, all along, going back to when their name was Drumpf, D-R-U-M-F, in Germany, and back to when the eldest son committed suicide, don't you suspect that this family knows Donald is a dangerously narcissistic sociopath? Can't you just hear Ivanka and Jared whispering about how to control Daddy? Or Tiffany rolling her eyes over, Daddy's gone off on a rant again. Or the slicked back hair, grown sons who look at their father with flat smiles and panic in their eyes. Or, God help her, Melania, bedecked as a proper trophy in the dead animal skins for which she sold her soul. They know. Paul Ryan knows, and Mitch McConnell, and Chris Christie. Even Mike Pence knows. Watch him watching Trump flail and bluster to fill his bottomless insecurity. The would-be emperor has nothing to hide his naked madness. Oh, by the way, a delicious P.S. The writer who had crafted Michelle Obama's speech that the Trumps plagiarized had earlier written speeches for Hillary Rodham Clinton. Puts Melania in better company than she's accustomed to. It's time for a short break here at Women's Media Center Live. I'm Robin Morgan, and I'll be right back with Maria Teresa Kumar about the absolute centrality of the Latino vote, and particularly the Latina vote, to this election.
You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan.
Welcome back. Maria Teresa Kumar is the founding president and CEO of Voto Latino. She's also an Emmy-nominated contributor with MSNBC and host of MSNBC's web show, Changing America. Under her leadership, Voto Latino has become a key factor in national elections. She's a frequent guest analyst on NPR and PBS, and a panelist on Bill Maher's HBO show, and a frequent guest right here. Maria Teresa, it's so good to have you back on the program.
Robin, it's always such a pleasure. Thanks for including me in your conversations.
Oh, you're very central to the conversations we have here. And in particular, I'm so glad to have you here because I watch you punditing away on television and always doing a superb job, a voice of sanity and clarity, and then getting interrupted by pale males. And it makes me a crazy lady. So here you are by God, you are not going to be interrupted. You go as long and as deep as you want, and nobody's going to just write over you or re-say the thing you just said and take credit for it.
Thank you so much, Robin. My favorite was the latest with my husband. Is like, how can they really interrupt the only woman on the panel talking about the woman vote?
Yeah, he's got a real point there. Yeah, you got it.
It was so funny. He's like, really? He's like, even then? It's really.
Oh no, they weigh right in. They feel absolutely compelled and entitled to tell you what it is you really feel.
Right. No, but it was just really, he pointed out so brilliantly. I just started cracking up. I was like, yeah, you got a point there, right?
He sure does. Well, all right. Let us talk about Voto Latino, which we have before on the program, but which seems to me all the more absolutely central to this agonized year in the Republic and to defeating Donald Trump. I know that the voter registration that you've been doing is upping the numbers of Latino voters, and I know that Latina voters are growing even more exponentially. So tell us about all that.
Yeah, so I have to say that our efforts are focused on trying to engage as many American Latinos in the process. And over the years, what we learned was that by doing it through an organization to meet the need of the amount of new Latinos hitting the polls that become eligible is really hard. To give you an example, you have roughly 1 million young Latinos turning 18 that are eligible to vote this year. Mm-hmm. In 2012, all the efforts combined by organizations such as Voto Latino, Labor, and the parties registered 623,000, give or take some. And we were the second largest, and we registered the second largest group of those, and that was close to 93,000 folks and change. So in the last 4 years between elections, we've been tooling around with a technology called VoterPal that we just launched. And the idea is that, first of all, you can download it on Android in the App Store, Robin. But the cool thing is that not all of a sudden it takes a picture of the back of your driver's license and populates your voter registration form. Oh. And it happens in seconds. So all of a sudden your voter registration form, instead of taking 10 minutes, it takes you literally 30 seconds to fill out. But then it goes a step further. And Robin, you can actually double click on the menu. You can put your name, you can put your organization, and then you can get your friend's driver's license and you can start registering them to vote as well. How cool is that? That is super cool. Oh, wow. Give the website where they can get a hold of this and learn about this, and then say the name of the app again. So the name of the app is in the Android store and in the Apple store. It's called Voter Pal, VOTER Pal, Voter Pal. And again, it allows you not only to register yourself by taking a picture of the back of your driver's license, but more importantly, it allows you now to do the exact same thing for all your friends. And then Voto Latino will be charged with following up and harassing your folks until they are actually registered. So the idea is that we found from all the studies that we've done that the best way to recruit someone to register to vote is peer-to-peer. The best is having a conversation saying, hey, are you registered? Mm-hmm. And also doing it online. So close to 80% of millennials receive their political news from their friends on Facebook and Twitter. And so this is an easy way for us to basically say, not only are you registered, but can you go ahead and download VoterPal and make sure that your friends are participating as well. This is just brilliant. And it's because it's cool, because it's in the technology and the language of millennials, and because it turns each one of them into an organizer to organize others. That's exactly right. And it's this idea that feeds into breaking down barriers. I mean, absent real modernization of our election our election system now, this is the best way for every single citizen to be able to go out and register their friends.
This is just fantastic. Talk a little bit about the emerging gender gap. Recently on Women's Media Center .com, the mother site of the Women's Media Center, academic Cristina Bejarano, who did a book called The Latino Gender Gap in U.S. Politics, wrote a piece about a growing gender gap, in at least in terms of numbers, that more young women, maybe that's because of voter Latino and you, are registering. And also that the gender gap is, well, everybody is concerned with, the basics, especially immigration, but not solely immigration. But she pointed out that education and economy and healthcare are major issues in the community, but that Latinas especially are concerned about education and healthcare. Is that the case? You find that too?
Huge. That is huge. So we did a study with Emily's List American Women, and we just published it, our results in Elle magazine. So folks, please pick up a copy. And we found that young Latinas overall are most concerned when it comes to the economy and when it comes to choice. And it makes sense, Robin.
Yes.
The average white voter is 42 years old. The average Latino voter is a 26-year-old. And if you're a 26-year-old young woman trying to decide if you want to go to school, do you want to continue your career, when do you want to start a family, if someone is telling you when you can have children or not, that's going to be a big issue for you.
Right, of course.
And so choice is really driving the conversation among these young Latinas. But then also, believe it or not, family sick leave. And it over-indexes, in fact, more than anybody else in the millennial group. But I will paint the scenario as to why. If you're a 23-year-old young woman and you are in school, you are deathly afraid that your parents are going to get sick and not have a safety net. Mm-hmm. And your parents more than likely are working in labor back-breaking work. Yep. And if they are to get sick, then you have to make a very personal decision. Do you stay in school or do you quit so you can take care of your mom and dad? Mm-hmm. I know that is, those were very real conversations I had with my family when I was in college. Right. These are opportunities across generations to find alliances when it comes to Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. Folks don't realize that, but Latinos are very primed because of their concern for their parents' future to align very nicely with baby boomers along these issues. Mm-hmm.
That's very interesting, and the demographics actually are encouraging to me, because if nothing else happens, the older pale male bigots will die out, and there is this young, fresh vision of America that's growing up with precisely those young women and men that you're talking about.
But we can't leave them hold. But I think, Robin, my concern is we can't leave them holding the bag, right?
Oh,
and that
no.
is why participation is so important. I think that this is the very first year that Generation Z is going to be eligible to vote. Can you imagine that?
Wow.
And they're more diverse than the millennials. They have, since 2012 to today, there are 10 million new voters that are eligible because they simply of turning 18. 2/3 of them are people of color.
This is hopeful.
And they are people that are learning to navigate the systems for the most part. They're first-time voters. They're first times in their families to vote. And so my concern is that we have to figure out, how do we incorporate these new Americans into the political system as quickly as possible so that they can help drive policies that basically lay the foundation for the next 25 years, and that we work in conjunction, again, with our progressive white allies, recognizing that we are lifting all boats, but that we have to do it soon, because otherwise, if we don't participate, 25 years down the line, we're going to have a continued broken educational system. We're not going to have adequate health care, all the systems that we need in place, and the people that are going to be suffering the most are elderly folks,
yeah,
and our young people.
And the young people who will fall into despair if there's no route for them. But you're one of the people who's providing the route. Tell me, how does it look? Do we have any, I don't know, ears on the ground in Arizona? Because I know that's such an interesting race, and John McCain, who some people think was once a great maverick soul. I was never that in love with him, but at least he used to be better than he is now, and he's now just appalling. When potentially the Latino electorate could reach to 20% or more of eligible voters in Arizona, and McCain could go down. Have you had a peek at that lately? The woman
McCain had the perfect opportunity, Robin, to cultivate not only the Latino vote, but really cultivate the Republican Party. And show them the future. And instead what he did is that he doubled down. If you remember during the 2012, 2008, he's like, build the dang fence, even though the majority of his growing constituency were Latinos. And instead of being that beacon of hope and understanding and bridging generations, I mean, what's happening right now in Arizona is as much about color as it is along generational fault lines.
Yep.
And what I mean by that is that you have a lot of retirees from the Midwest that all of a sudden went to Arizona and saw brown people, even though they were Americans, and no one was explaining to them what was happening. And instead of giving to their educational system, they decided that they were going to create enclaves amongst themselves, and they didn't pour money back into their good hard-earned taxes back into the public education system. Mm-hmm. So it's been a lot of, there's just a different fault lines there, and I think that there's a great opportunity this year to turn Arizona finally blue. It's definitely a toss-up.
Well, it sounds as if, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
It sounds as if Congresswoman Ann Kirkpatrick is a formidable opponent for him, and I mean, she didn't she introduce legislation in the House that would allow Dreamers to earn employment in congressional offices, and I mean, she's done some decent things. Certainly.
Yeah, she understands this new American frontier, and she understands that by allowing young people who have the desire and the want and who deeply feel American to participate and not to marginalize them.
Yes.
And while McCain was part of the Senate bill to pass comprehensive immigration reform, he's wobbled too much, right? And that's a shame, because what the country needs more than anything now is leadership across party lines and across color lines, and I don't think we have that.
No, and he fell into line behind, Twitter Trump, and his incredible bigotry.
We could actually argue that McCain basically gave root to Trump because he started off giving Palin the platform.
That's right.
Palin was Trump light in many ways.
Exactly. Before I lose you, let's take a word and talk about the disappearing statistic and reality in the Latino community that is more obvious and more newsworthy, considered more newsworthy in the Black community, which are the recent killings of Black men escalating, and then the sniper in Dallas and all of that goes down. I know that there have also been almost uncovered, or certainly not given much attention, there have been comparable deaths in the Latino community. So talk a little about that.
No, this is such a difficult time for young people and for parents and communities of color, because none of it is surprising. The difference is that now it's being televised, or live streamed, I should say. And I'll give you an example. There was a young man in 2013. His name was Andy Lopez. He was a 13-year-old teenager who was walking around in broad daylight that was gunned down by police because they mistook his toy gun for a real one. His middle schoolers across Santa Rosa marched to City Hall, and they were greeted by snipers they were greeted by SWAT teams, on rooftops, pointing guns at them. These were middle school kids.
Where was this?
This was in Santa Rosa, California. This happened in 2013, a year before Eric Gardner. And it didn't make national news, but I know about it because it was in the town where I went to high school.
Oh.
The fact that these young kids left their classroom was as much in solidarity for Andy Lopez than as they were tired of being victims. He wasn't the first one.
Of course
but
not.
It didn't make national news.
Of course
Since
not.
Eric Gardner's death, there have been more than 8 young Latino men that have been killed. More recently, in the last 2 weeks, 2 other ones that no one knows about. One was a high-speed chase that the kid did a U-turn and he started getting shot at, and it turned out that the cops were undercover cops in unmarked vehicles, and they never actually told him who they were. Robin, if I'm getting chased by an unknown car, I too probably would have done a U-turn trying to get away. Right?
Yeah, of course.
So it's just, and I think that this is where our challenge is that as Americans, we have to realize that our issues are all the same. When it comes to what happened in Orlando, it was disproportionately Latinos, but Latinos are gay, Latinos are racially profiled, Latinos care about minimum wage, Latinos care about choice, Latinos care about making sure that their kids thrive and are not racially profiled by anyone, because they are living the same American experience as the rest of us. And I think that what we need to do better is not silo people into what we think folks are. And what I mean by that, people only talk about our prejudice and our racism in binary ways, and we don't talk about the ever-expanding, changing face of America and who, if we cultivate appropriately and provide them with avenues of success and avenues to be successful, will help the future of America. We have to stop putting Latinos as the group that only cares about immigration. That is not the case.
All right.
We care about everything that every single American cares about, and that is making sure that our children are safe, that we can be successful given the right opportunities, that we have access to adequate health care, that we have access to great education, and at the end of the day, that our parents who have worked and toiled to make America great have a chance of retirement someday. And it's the American dream that everybody wants, and it's making sure that we are providing those foundations for this unique group during this unique time.
Would that your voice were broadcast from the rooftops, and when it is on television, that they didn't interrupt you. Give Voto Latino's website one more time.
It's votolatino.org. We just launched a campaign called Brave, and the idea is that in the last 10 years, we have seen Americans take to the street, from immigration to Occupy Wall Street to choice to fair wages to Black Lives Matter. And it's time we realize that being brave means to stand up and say we are not siloed, but we are one movement.
Oh, be still my heart. Thank you.
And thank you for having these conversations, Robin.
And now it's time to pop into the surrealism corner. Wasn't it surreal that not once during the GOP convention did anyone mention that the city they were in, Cleveland, once an industrial powerhouse, is now one of the poorest, most segregated big cities in America? 2 out of 5 people there live below the poverty line, second only to Detroit. Infant mortality rates in the weakest neighborhoods are worse than in some developing countries. But hey, the strip club owners in Cleveland made lots of money during the convention. One said, "It's all hands on deck here. We canceled vacations. We ordered in extra alcohol because Republicans love strippers." Surreal. The surreal item that actually will make you smile. A former national park in New Zealand has been granted personhood, and a river system will receive the same designation. This came out of agreements between the New Zealand government and the earlier settlers, the Maori people, whose name for the country is Aotearoa. The two sides have argued for years over guardianship of the country's extreme natural beauty and preservation of it, and New Zealand's Attorney General said the issue was resolved by taking the Maori attitude into account. He said, "In their worldview, I am the river and the river is me. Their geographic region is part and parcel of who they are." So, the 821-square-mile national park, Te Urewera, is now a legal entity with all the rights, powers, duties, and liabilities of a legal person. Next will be the Whanganui River. Public access to the park and the river will continue, but personhood means, among other things, that lawsuits to protect the land can be brought on behalf of the land itself with no need to show harm to a particular human being. Quite different from here, wouldn't you say, where personhood is most regarded as being that of a corporation or a fetus, as opposed to persons. Could this approach be catching? Apparently Canada is mulling it right now. It really is a profound alternative to the human presumption of sovereignty over the natural world. So said Peta Sharpless, Minister of Maori Affairs. I agree. It is surreal and sublime. Time for another short pause. I'm Robin Morgan. This is Women's Media Center Live. If you've ever wondered or dreamt about what would a feminist foreign policy look like, well, stay tuned. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan.
And we're back again. Her name is Margot Wallström. It's spelled Margot, pronounced Margot Wallström. The post she holds is that of the Swedish Minister for Foreign Affairs. It's like our Secretary of State. She's also the Deputy Prime Minister for Sweden, and she's held those posts since October of 2014. She previously served as European Commissioner for the Environment and as European Commissioner for Institutional Relations and Communication Strategy. She was the Special Representative to the UN Secretary General on Sexual Violence in Conflict, and she's had a long career in politics in the Swedish Parliament, the Swedish government, and the European Commission. In fact, she was first Vice President of the European Commission. What's more, she heads a foreign office that declares itself openly feminist and practices feminist foreign policy. Here is Margot Wallström. Minister Wallström, Margot, welcome to Women's Media Center Live.
Thank you so much. My pleasure.
First, let me congratulate you on Sweden's just recently being gladly elected to serve on the United Nations Security Council for next year.
Thank you. We were very happy and proud, and we are ready to serve.
Well, I'm sure you will shake them up in the best possible way, and frankly, it makes me feel safer on the planet knowing that Sweden is sitting on the Security Council. You have a government now in Sweden. You are the Deputy Prime Minister, and you're also the Foreign Minister. That calls itself, a government that calls itself openly a feminist government, and you have you're the first country in the world to pursue an open feminist foreign policy. Now, I hope you understand that at this stage in history, to a U.S. feminist, it sounds as if we just died and went to heaven to hear about you. So we want to know a lot about this. I mean, how it came to pass that the government's overall objective connects peace, security, development, and feminism, and systematic gender mainstreaming. This is extraordinary.
Thank you very much for asking about that, because it's important to understand that the notion comes from an analysis of the situation for women and men around the world. There is still discrimination against women. There is a systematic discrimination and different treatment of women around the world. So it has to start with an analysis of the situation, and then you have to decide on how to change that. This Swedish government is actually 50-50 women and men, and we have said that gender equality must be integrated into everything we do. When it comes to the foreign policy, this is also an understanding of the fact that how you treat women is in the end a matter of peace and security. We know that most peace agreements fail within just a few years.
Mm-hmm.
And that is one of the reasons being that half of the population is not included, and women are very often, and our experience is that when women are included in the peace process, when they are also the names that sign a peace agreement, there is a greater chance that that agreement will last longer. And this is from research and from
Yes.
experience all over the world. So it is a matter of peace and security, and you have to define it as such. Gender equality is also a matter of being able to have sustainable peace. So it's smart policies. It's not choosing between hard and soft power. It's smart power.
Yeah, exactly. But we know that in this country, or at least the women's movement knows it. But translating that into getting action is a totally different cup of tea. And one of the things that impresses me so deeply about this foreign policy in Sweden is that you focus on how it will work, and it's through composed. I mean, it's in every area. It's bilateral. It's multilateral. It's the European Union. It's the United Nations. It factors in the labor market and unpaid labor, which of course is where women largely are. It factors in corporate social responsibility. It's transitional justice. I mean, that is quite amazing, and that I don't know how. I want to copy it. We all want to copy it.
Well, first of all, you have to use a few sort of guiding principles, and they are, when it comes to the foreign policy area, we say we look at the 3 R's, and there is actually a 4th R, and that is reality check. You start by looking at the reality with the right sort of lenses on, but then it's about rights. You check, do women enjoy the same rights as men? Still, in many countries, they don't have a right to inherit in the same way as men, etc., etc. And
right.
Then, so are they protected by the law, and are their rights looked after? And then, secondly, it's about representation. Are they around the table? So we ask the question constantly: where are the women? And still, in so many peace negotiations, they are not around the table at all. They do not have a voice. And thirdly, we look at resources. How are the resources distributed? And I think this works. I mean, this was very much my own idea on how to sort of organize the way we should think about it and integrate it. And I think it still works. Maybe it can be improved. Maybe there is another R that we need to add to it. But I think so far this works. And so that's the test that we make against these three R's. And it means also that you can use it everywhere and in all situations. And you get a long way by just asking, for example, where are the women? We've seen it in Libya. We've seen it
right.
in Syria. We saw it in Mali, etc., etc. So it's very obvious that you have to start with those very basic things. Then we do an action plan. For every year, we have an action plan, including this year, putting more emphasis on women's economic empowerment around the world. We look at their sexual and reproductive health issues. We look at how do we protect women in very, very vulnerable situations of war and conflict. Can we do more to to fight sexual violence in war and conflict, etc. So that is also part of how we can further and forward these issues.
You know, we're used to referring to the Nordic model or the Swedish model, basically, in terms of the first intelligent, sane laws about prostitution and sexual exploitation, because of course Sweden pioneered what was the feminist dream, and for decades we've been saying that you don't punish the women, you in fact instead come down on the pimps and the brothel owners and the men who buy women, and we were told we were crazy, but then of course we were legitimized by the fact that Sweden made it policy, and then and it worked. It's working. So the Nordic model, which we've used to refer to prostitution and sexual exploitation legislation, is now, I think, becoming the Nordic model on foreign policy as well, the Swedish model, and the Swedish model in so many other ways. I know that you've been a great defender, quite properly, of the European Union. Say a few words about Brexit.
Well, this is, of course, a very difficult situation for the whole of the European Union.
Yeah.
And it turned out that it was difficult to repair what had been for a long time, what should I call it, the political leaders in the UK never came out in defense of their EU membership.
Yes.
They left it to the Daily Mail to make headlines, and very often they were not true at all. They were outright lies about the European Union. And if there is nobody to defend or explain or help to anchor the whole idea of European integration, of course you cannot repair that in a few months in a referendum campaign.
Right.
And I also think that often thought of as sort of the ultimate instrument for democracy, referenda can also become very nasty. And we saw it this time, that it polarizes, of course, the whole debate. It simplifies. It uses very emotional arguments, and
right.
It can divide a people for a very, very long time. And I'm not saying that it is a democratic instrument, but you have to use it with care, and you have to think about the consequences. And for the rest of the member states, it is also a blow and a big difficulty, because I think that those xenophobic and nationalistic parties and movements around Europe, they are the ones who applaud.
Yes.
And that worries me a lot. But I think we can only, as leaders and responsible for also integrating European member states, we just have to keep calm at the moment and try to take one step at a time. And it would be good to have the procedure established as soon as possible, so to know exactly how they imagine that this the Brexit should be organized. And then we have to show citizens of the European Union that we can solve some problems, that we can do better economically and socially, and also work on how to make it more democratic and not only a project for the elite.
Well, as you can imagine, it also scared the hell out of those of us here. Not that we hadn't already been working 24/7 against Trumpism, but it's not something that you can ever take lightly. They didn't take it seriously enough, I think, in Britain, and we're taking this very seriously here.
And also against the trade agreements, because we need the trade deals, and they have. They are good for our countries, and I think they have also underestimated how much it means that we've had the Commission and the European institutions negotiating those trade deals, and there are so many, and they affect our economies so much that to do it on their own will be a very heavy and difficult task.
Yeah. Let's take a moment and talk about the woman who's making this happen. You managed miraculously to do all of these things and be controversial and push the envelope, as we say colloquially, and still be voted the most popular woman in Sweden. I love it. It shows that the Swedes are so intelligent. But you were controversial. You were the first EU foreign minister to recognize the state of Palestine. You tweeted criticism of Saudi Arabia's flogging of human rights bloggers. And then, of course, you promised a feminist foreign policy when the Social Democrats formed the coalition to begin with and criticized the lack of women's rights in Saudi Arabia openly, to the point where Saudi Arabia got miffed and you revoked a weapons export agreement, and it all turned out friendly. But oh my God, I mean, you even got criticized when you went to support Ségolène Royal when she ran for president of France. How do you do this, you amazing woman? You're Amazonian.
No. I mean, in politics, you can be voted popular one day and the next day you're out. I believe you have to have your own goals very clear and objectives very clear to you, and you have to be open and work with people, and you have to stand on your principles, and these are also on democracy and human rights. That's what we are known for as a country, and I'm proud to work for those principles, and they are also principles in the UN Charter, and that's what we have to do now. At the same time, you have to have mutual respect, and I think now we have been able to repair some of the damage that might have been done by it came to a row, but I think we have now managed to have more of a mutual respect. They know exactly where we stand on democracy and human rights.
Yes.
But we can talk to each other, and that's the most important. That we used all the political and diplomatic tools available to us to make sure that we can do it with respect for each other's position and without harming our trade, for example, or things like that.
Well,
we need to have an open dialogue and an open communication.
Well, that of course sounds very sensible, but sounding sensible, being sane for that matter, in today's world is itself an astonishment. And I want you to know personally from my heart, on behalf of women in this country and for that matter all over the planet, that when you take those stands, you individually and your lovely country, Sweden, it matters to all of us so much. It's sometimes it sounds like, my God, are they from another planet? But if they are, take me there. And it really is a model for all the things that are mouthed, whether it's in the Human Rights Declaration, or it's in democratic principles or the EU. These are statements, these are documents, but you and I both know they are winked at, they are ignored. And to see them actually seriously put into practice just makes the pulse faster and gives us all hope.
Thank you. That's very kind of you to say that. It means a lot to me and to us to hear that. And I believe that people feel very worried at the moment. You see a world where we have 40 conflicts, 11 full-blown wars around the world. We see so much of violence and hate speech and polarized and nationalistic agenda being pushed, and that makes people worried about the future. And more important, that there are countries and parties and leaders who stand up for principles and can continue to preach also with a message about peace and reconciliation, or the things that take time, that are not sort of quick solutions to things, but really mean that people have to engage, have to listen to each other, be in a dialogue and compromise sometimes to find a way forward. And we need to gang together, to gang up also those of us who believe in those methods and not the violent militaristic solutions. and we seem sometimes to be in the hands of some power crazy men that and we do not seem to be able to prevent all the bad things that they are doing. And so I think now is the time for women. That's really
What a wonderful way to end. I'm so grateful to you for being with us today, for the work that you do, and just for existing, Margot. I mean, it really gladdens my heart. It makes a big difference.
No, thank you for everything you're doing.
Time for one more break here at Women's Media Center Live. I'm Robin Morgan, and I'll be right back with some fighting words.
You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan.
And we're back again in time for some fighting words. I found it totally unnecessary for Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg to apologize for having stated that Trump was unfit and unqualified. The ensuing firestorm about justices never should be able to act politically was a hoot. Not only did the late Justice Scalia hang out with lobbyists and go on a hunting trip with a man whose case was right then and there before the Supreme Court, and he didn't recuse himself, and not only is Justice Thomas's wife a lobbyist employed by a major right-wing group, but the first Chief Justice of the United States, John Jay, actually ran for office twice for governorship of New York, and he won once, while he was sitting on the bench of the Supreme Court. Give me a break. On another front, I found it heartening, actually, that the Turkish army had risen up in an attempted coup recently, and I found it devastating that they failed. Now, you won't often catch me praising a military coup, but let's not forget that President Erdogan of Turkey partly stole the last election, or that he has said women are only half human if we don't have babies and stay home with kids. He has pushed to create non-secular religious schools, arrested thousands of journalists and taken over the media, and has been, and is still now, and now he'll get his way, attempting to change the Constitution so he can be president for life. His post-attempted coup purge is horrific. The figures so far are, to date, he has reportedly purged 1,500 university deans, revoked the licenses of 21,000 teachers, and either purged or detained nearly 35,000 members of the military security forces and judiciary as part of his cleansing of the government and of the country. It's horrific. But we can end on a celebratory note. I could have filed the conclusion to this story in a "we won this" segment, but it fits in here in Fighting Words because it proves that fighting words actually do sometimes get you somewhere. Following up on news from last week regarding Gretchen Carlson's sexual harassment and retaliation lawsuit against Republican kingmaker and Fox News head Roger Ailes, we are now actually finally witnessing the fall of Ailes. Lachlan and James Murdoch, respectively co-chair and CEO of the parent company of Fox News, 21st Century Fox, have finally convinced their father, odious media magnate Rupert Murdoch, long a protector of Ailes, that Ailes must go. He's cutting a deal for a $40 million golden parachute in return for what is euphemistically phrased as his resignation. Pressure began to build after Carlson blew the whistle, and then first 5, then 12 women came forward reporting similar incidents of sexual harassment. And the tipping point came when network star and high ratings getter Megyn Kelly added her name to that list. She stipulated so to the independent New York law firm engaged by the Murdoch sons to investigate. And then, in classic Borgia court, Fox News fashion, strategically leaked her testimony. Since Fox wants to retain her when her contract is up next year, that was the final blow to Ailes. It remains to be seen whether the Murdoch brothers will, as is rumored, revamp Fox News into something that remotely approaches a delivery system for accurate journalism. Personally, I doubt it. It makes far too much money as a right-wing propaganda arm for the worst factions of the GOP. But hey, let's hear it for Gretchen Carlson, who refused to settle for private arbitration and went public with a lawsuit, and for the women, including Megyn Kelly, who came forth and added their testimonies to hers. Fighting words indeed. Or, as the late poet Muriel Rukeyser put it, what would happen if one woman told the truth about her life? The world would split open. Those are my fighting words. Add yours on Twitter and be sure to tag us at WMC Live and use the hashtag #FightingWords. And that's it for today. This is our season finale, as we're going on hiatus until September, but check your podcast subscription or at WMCLive.com for updates during our hiatus, after which we'll be back, reinvigorated and ready for a historic autumn on September 10th. This program is syndicated, but if you can't find the broadcast on a radio station in your area, you can always visit us at WMCLive.com for the show, plus the archive of all our previous episodes, and at iTunes worldwide. There you can stream, download, and subscribe to the show's podcast. Also, be sure to find WMC Live on Facebook and Twitter. Portions of this program were taped earlier. Opinions expressed here do not necessarily represent the WMC. Here's the family for Women's Media Center Live. Our founding sponsor is Regina K. Scully. WMC president and executive producer of this program is Julie Burton, and I'm Robin Morgan, your producer and host. Thank you for being with us. Don't forget to check back for updates and to join us for the season premiere on September 10th, right here on Women's Media Center Live.
For the smartest talk about news, politics, sex, books, religion, race, and more, tune your radio to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan. Audacious, witty, provocative, informative, and fun. It's Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan on WMCLive.com. Talk radio with a brain.